Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this session on exploring the role and responsibility of business and the workplace in decarbonisation. My name is Joanne Pattinson. I will be sharing the delivery of this session with my co-host, Jonathan Foster-Clark, who I'll introduce shortly. But just to introduce myself to you today, I guess I'm here with two hats on really. I'm a socio-legal researcher, which is to say I am interested in how the law affects people and society. And I'm normally based at the University of Leeds in their Institute for Transport Studies. So I am extremely interested in the regulation of transport, the decarbonisation of transport, the regulation of road vehicle emissions. But the other hat that I've got on is that I am here as a consultant working with Addleshaw Goddard, or AGs, is what they're also known as. Addleshaw Goddard, for those of you who are unfamiliar, they're a law firm which has offices in the UK, throughout the UK, in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. And they also have a significant presence in representing clients in both the transport and the energy sectors. And so it's this intersection between the transport and energy sectors which has seen AGs really take quite an active role in the decarbonisation space. Now, to introduce my co-host Jonathan, who will be speaking to you later. Jonathan might have problems with his camera, but I assure you he's here. Jonathan is a senior transport strategy advisor at Atkins. Atkins is one of the world's most respected design, engineering and project management consultancies. And Jonathan is a transport planner and chartered civil engineer, and he specialises in transport policy, sustainability issues, social inclusion and net zero. Now, how this session even came about was it was born out of a discussion between Atkins and AGs, and also with Professor Greg Marsden of Decarbonate, who's also based at the University of Leeds. And we recognised a huge role that corporations and businesses and workplaces and employees have to play in terms of our decarbonisation goals. But the role of which businesses have to play are not necessarily that well defined, apart from the general target set by government to say of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. So the actual discussions on how businesses go about achieving this goal and contributing to achieving this goal perhaps isn't talked about as often as what it should be. And so how we propose to start today is, first of all, I will be taking the first half of the session, which will be looking at what businesses can do, businesses and employers and employees, what they can be doing in terms of their internal policy and strategy and behaviours. And we have termed that change within. And then this is going to be followed by a session which is going to be led by Jonathan, which will explore the role that what businesses are able to do in terms of creating an external impact on policy, on regulation, on infrastructure and leadership. And we have termed that session Change Without. And now the format of this is definitely not going to be in a lecture style format. We are not here to tell organisations what they should be doing. What we really want this to be is a sharing of ideas and experiences. And so this is why this is in a workshop style format. So certainly Jonathan and I can talk about our perspective and the sort of initiatives that we know that our organisations are involved in. But what we are more interested in finding out about is what is going on in other organisations, particularly when something is working really well. We want to know what your thoughts are in terms of the types of practices that organisations should be striving for. And we want to know, also want to know about the challenges that you have, whether or not you are a business or whether or not you're an employee. Because what we would like to do is to produce a compilation of actions, actions and ideas which we can all take forward from here. So we would really like to find a way to galvanise action across the board and really help businesses to really take some positive, impactful steps, as well as taking back some ideas back to our own organisations. So now, how we propose to start today, you will have the option to unmute yourself if you like. Now, you'll also have, if you're, we would really love to hear your voice. Otherwise, you're quite welcome to use the chat function in the Zoom chat. But also in my session, I'm going to have a Padlet, which I'll explain shortly too, where you're able to type in your comments and ideas. So this is a general plan for what we're going to do today. So the workshops will be they'll be fairly quick. They'll be 30 minutes long. So we'll have a lot to cram into those sessions. We'll have a short little break when we swap over, and then we'll have time, as I said, when we're talking about what actions to take, we're going to get together at the end to sort of summarise those and work out. Really, what we want to do is to not just have this discussion today. We're really keen on how we can actually bring this discussion into action in the future. So on that note, what I'd like to do is to go into workshop 1, which is the workshop that I'm chairing. So now in the chat, there should be a link for a Padlet. Tina, I hope that's right. So if you've joined, you might need to put that link in again for people that have joined later. So now what you should be seeing, if you've not used a Padlet before, it's really just an interactive whiteboard. And of these interactive things that I've experienced in the last 18 months, I've found this to be the easiest. You don't have to put in your email address or your name or anything like that. You just literally click on the link. It'll open it up to this Padlet, and you will be able to type directly into the Padlet. So I'll give you an example. If you wanted to make a comment over here, you just press comment and it should just appear, for example. So it's really, really super easy to use. But as I said, if you don't want to use that, you can just use the Zoom chat, or you can unmute yourself and you can just talk to me. So the types of discussion questions that I thought would be able to kick off, and it's not limited to this is just what I've come up with. I want to talk about what drives sustainability in your business or organisation. I'd imagine in some businesses it might be regulatory focused, or maybe it's customer driven or employee driven. Certainly at universities, sometimes it's driven by students. So I'd really like to hear from people about that. I would like to hear from people with examples of decarbonisation strategies in their organisations, or decarbonisation strategies that they would really like to see. And I'd like people's views on what type of strategies actually make a meaningful impact, and maybe if you could show examples of those. The green one in the middle here, decarbonisation strategies, the other benefits. So it's not what we, especially at at AGs, what we are finding is that the clients who are really on top of their environmental and social governance are really finding other benefits associated with implementing a really impactful decarbonisation strategy, in that it is provided new business opportunities, it's reduced running costs, for example. So I'd like to talk about those, but also actually there's also room in the discussion for talking about the challenges, whether or not there are high setup costs, if you're subject to really complicated reporting requirements. I'm really interested to talk about that, because that is a common complaint that I hear about, where you're in an organisation where you have to report. That can sometimes be off-putting for organisations. And also what I wanted to talk about was the green commuting policies. And I don't just mean travelling for conferences and things like that, but are you in an organisation that actually has a policy about how you get to work? And I don't mean just simply your employer saying, oh, we'd really prefer if you used green transport to get to work, but is your organisation, do you have any kind of assistance to choose greener travel to get to work? I'm interested to hear about that. And also I'm interested in what your experiences have been, and I know this is not the first meeting during this week where we've discussed the impact of COVID-19 and working from home, but I'm interested in hearing from people about their organisations' ongoing views about working from home. And also what we could talk about is my understanding, and there may be people in the room today which have more up-to-date details on this, but there's quite a few studies going on about the actual bottom line impact on greenhouse emissions on working from home. And it doesn't mean that it's carbon neutral, that you've got your workforce working from home. People working from home, it does produce its own, you do need energy to work from home, and there is swings and roundabouts there. So and some of the studies, I think, are not necessarily clear in terms of exactly what the impact is from working from home, apart from obviously there's that obvious impact that people are traveling less. So that is a really interesting discussion I'd like to have. So that is a summary of the types of things I'd like to talk about.